Okay, hello. So this is my first ever social gathering talking about the astrology and going into a little bit of a meditation and a little bit of a talk about what is happening in the cosmos as we are about to have a new moon in Cancer. So every 28 days we experience a new moon. And every 28 days, we experience a full moon. And both new moons and full moons are very powerful. They're powerful, they're potent, and they can be utilized. We can use these type of lunar cycles to assist us in doing some healing work, making some intentions, or working on manifesting. Also, working on some closure, working on letting things go, or starting uh, brand new, starting fresh new endeavors, such as this very first episode of Mario having a live social event. This is the first time I've ever done this. So so you're seeing it in action, me putting an intention into this new moon energy. It is currently Friday night, and the new moon in Cancer is going to occur in the early AM hours of July 14th, so Tuesday morning at approximately 5:43 a.m. So we have quite a few days until this new moon energy occurs. But even before then, the moon will enter Cancer on the 12th at 6:47 p.m. So today is the 10th. So on Sunday, the moon will enter Cancer, and beginning Sunday, we will now be in the what's called the balsamic moon phase, which are I believe it's um the it's not the whole 30 degrees, but it's about 15 to 30 degrees before the climax of a new moon. And so that period is called the balsamic phase. And what the balsamic phase generally is, what it does is it brings to the surface what needs to be made conscious and aware of as we move through the new moon portal. So, so what I'm going to dive into about this new moon is focusing on what Cancer means because it is the Cancer new moon. So, this Cancer new moon, you'll see as I share the screen. So this Cancer new moon is going to be the sun and the moon at 21 degrees Cancer and 59 minutes. So we can even round that up to 22 degrees Cancer. But also Mercury retrograde is going to be within this new moon portal of Mercury will be at 19 degrees Cancer retrograde. And so this combination here is important because of the Mercury retrograde and the timing of it. Because if I go back and show you what happens just a few days before the full moon, I mean the new moon, excuse me. So if I go back one day, Mercury is at 20 degrees Cancer and the sun is at 21 degrees Cancer. But if I go back even just one more day to the 12th, we have Mercury retrograde getting ready to Kazimi the sun. So we've been in a Mercury retrograde cycle for about a week now, and we have approximately 2 more weeks of this Mercury retrograde. So the timing of the Mercury Kazimi and the new moon is significant. So a Mercury Kazimi, what that means is essentially what that means is Mercury is going to cross over the sun. It is a Mercury Sun conjunction. And Mercury Sun conjunctions happen approximately 6 times a year. Mercury retrogrades 3 times a year. And so there's this dance between Mercury and the sun that happens within every retrograde cycle. So there will be two Sun-Mercury conjunctions that'll occur in, right now. So the first one is Mercury retrograde crossing over the sun, which is going to occur July 12th at 20 degrees Gemini. And this is what's called the inferior conjunction. Much later down the road, when Mercury stations direct and begins to move forward again, as Mercury catches up to the sun, Mercury will cross over the sun, making another Kazimi, and that one's called the superior conjunction. So we have an inferior and a superior conjunction. So as we are building up towards this new moon in Cancer, we're going to have the inferior conjunction with Mercury and the Sun, and the new moon. So why is this significant? This is significant because Mercury represents the mind and information, and it's retrograde, which means we are invited at this period to be more introspective, to go inward, to process things in our life. The generally when Mercury's retrograde, it's a period to kind of catch up to all the busybody and the noise and the things we've been doing for the previous 3 months, because Mercury will retrograde every 3 months. So it's a process of integrating what we've been doing, what we've been thinking, what information has been moving through our body, through our mind from the previous 3 months. And so when we have the inferior conjunction, what it is essentially is the mind meets with our conscious awareness. And the Mercury retrograde brings a message to our awareness. So it is common for Mercury Sun retrogrades for there to be sudden epiphanies, sudden new insights and awarenesses where information is received that sort of activates and it supports our conscious awareness to sort of catch up to ourselves. And when Mercury passes the sun, he has to continue the retrograde cycle. So Mercury will station direct, ending his retrograde cycle on July 23rd. And and so at that point, so even right now, after this superior inferior conjunction, and after this new moon in Cancer, the mind still has to continue his journey in going deeper into the inward process, as our conscious awareness is about to become, um, how do I say, not newly aware of the information, but our conscious awareness is going to have this new epiphany, this new revelation to have to process and kind of simmer with as Mercury continues the retrograde cycle. And so with this all happening during a new moon, there is a lot of new awarenesses that we're being invited to explore. And these awarenesses have to do with Cancerian themes, the Cancer energy. So, Cancer is the sign that represents the home, the family, and is the embodiment of the mother archetype. or essentially the nurturer or the healer. The part of the body that Cancer rules is are the breasts and the belly, the womb. And so this is symbolic in Cancer's capacity to be able to nurture and to create, because the breast is what's used to feed a baby. The womb is what's used to create a child.
Mhm.
And so Cancer is a very profound, deep energy because it is associated to our roots. And what's even more profound about this is it's associated to ancestral roots. So there can be an interesting dynamic in having to process the memories or the emotional imprints we inherit through our mothers, through our mothers' mothers, that we might not have any awareness of. And this is how so cycles, energetic cycles, and karmic behaviors can repeat one generation after the next, because the memory and the streamline literally gets passed down from one womb, from one child down to the next via the female. And the men inherit it too, but men can't pass it down because they can't bear a child. Only women pass down the genetics in that way. So Cancer is also memories and nostalgia. So during this Mercury retrograde and this Cancer season, we could find ourselves suddenly being taken aback into random flashbacks of points of our life that we had not thought about in years. For example, earlier today, I was at some point today, I was completely transported into remembering something that was a part of my life from, let's see, 17 years ago when I lived in my first apartment, and I was remembering my neighbors. And I was like, why am I in this memory? This is so weird. I have not thought about them since the time I lived, since the time they were my neighbors. But for whatever reason, my mind was remembering a moment where I was visiting my neighbors and they were making bacon, because I was in my home making bacon this morning. And there was a conversation about how to properly make bacon. And then I remembered, oh, it's Cancer season. And we're moving towards the nostalgia, being brought back into the past to remember something. There's something here that I'm being brought back to, that that my awareness is trying to uh that my conscious awareness is trying to receive. So during this retrograde cycle and moving through this Cancer new moon portal, you can literally find yourself going into flashbacks, going into the past and sort of remembering or even feeling old things. And sometimes this can stir up emotions, especially if we are remembering painful things, painful experiences. And so this is an opportunity for healing that. If you find yourself kind of reminiscing on certain things that may have been said or done in the past, especially if you are a mother, or especially if you have interesting dynamics going on with your own mother, or if you've struggled with abandonment issues or struggles with home, or even feeling like you never received the proper care and nurturing that you wanted, that you needed as a child growing up. This Cancer energy can really bring up a lot of these dynamics of our roots, of our childhood, of aspects of our past. And it's these are all opportunities for healing, opportunities for understanding a part of ourselves that is needing to be seen and to be nurtured. So a lot of interesting things can be occurring right now with this Cancer energy. And the other thing that's very significant about this is before this Mercury retrograde cycle began, Mercury was at oh man, I lost myself. Mercury was at Mercury retrograded, I believe, at 26 degrees Cancer. And at that time, Jupiter was at 29 degrees Cancer. So when Mercury stationed retrograde, he was close enough to receive a message from Jupiter. And so keep in mind, Mercury is the messenger of the planets. Mercury is Hermes, the mercurial planet that is able to move through all realms, all dimensions to communicate and bring messages. Mercury can go to Zeus in Mount Olympus to receive a message, and he is the only planet that can also go into the underworld of Hades' domain to deliver that message. Mercury can go anywhere to translate and transfer information, bringing the messages. So when that Mercury stationed retrograde, he received a message from Jupiter to now move in reverse motion to pass that message to the sun. And the sun is our conscious vital life force. It's our body, it's our conscious awareness. And so the mind and conscious awareness are two separate things. So, for example, it's very easy to speak on certain virtues, but it's one thing to actually embody it and to really understand what it means to embodiment. It's easy for anyone and everyone to say all the good things, but it's another thing to actually embodiment, to walk it, right? So this is one way of understanding the difference of the mind and the conscious awareness and the body. So Mercury is on his way to crossing over the sun to bring the message that Jupiter has for the sun to receive. And the reason why this is very significant is because Jupiter is now in Leo. Jupiter entered Leo on June 30th. But before he entered Leo, he spent an entire year moving through Cancer. So the message that Jupiter has given to Cancer, I mean to Mercury, is all the wisdom that Jupiter has discovered in this entire year of being in Cancer. So now Jupiter, before leaving Cancer, says, "Hey, Mercury, these are all of the things that I've expanded on in the previous year. Take it and bring it to the sun." So this is very significant because we just completed an entire year of Jupiter in Cancer. And generally, Jupiter in Cancer is a very good thing because Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. But this Jupiter transit in Cancer actually dealt with some awkward challenges and discomforts. And what those discomforts were a series of direct squares to Chiron in Aries. So last year in October, Chiron in Aries made a direct square to Jupiter in Cancer. And then both these planets retrograded and they made another exact square in December of last year. And so Jupiter is the planet of expansion, wisdom, higher meaning, and greater and philosophical purpose and understanding. Jupiter is also opportunities and growth. But when it's squared with Chiron, Chiron is the wounded healer, the weird one, the awkward one, the one that has trauma, that's dealt with a lot of rejection and a lot of pain in life. But through that pain, Chiron has learned how to also become a shaman. So Jupiter making these ongoing aspects to Chiron has triggered this whole series that the whole collective has been going through since October of last year of processing family wounds and how to um, become more of an individual, breaking away from the family cycles, the family cycles, the repetitive karmic patterns. Because Jupiter in Cancer is going to highlight themes associated with the mother, our mother connections, whether if you are a mother or you're dealing with things with your mother, it's going to associate things, it's going to expand and bring up themes around home, family, perhaps even bring up plumbing issues, kitchen issues, and things wrong with the sink, things wrong with the stove, like those literal, because Cancer rules the kitchen, because the kitchen is where we cook to nourish for the family we love. I bake these cookies for you because I love you. Enjoy them. So Cancer is the kitchen, cooking, home, baking, family, coming together, wanting to feed, wanting to nurture. And with Chiron squaring this Jupiter over the previous, the end of year of last year and going into this year, humanity has been dealing with this resonance of sort of processing some family funk. I don't want to call it wounds. I don't want to call it trauma because it's likely things that are kind of in the past. So they're not really issues today, but the vibration of it still can carry a funk into our present experience. Does that make sense? So it's like, for example, here's an example of what's occurred in my life during this transit. Um, at some point, my father married another woman, and that woman became my stepmother. And I was about 16 years old when she became my stepmother. And there were a lot of things in how she treated me and my sister, essentially adopting us and becoming our stepmom, that there were a lot of ways in how she handled me and my sister that I never really thought of until this transit. And so, for example, my sister and I, when she came into our life, were just coming out of very, very traumatic, violent, abusive environments in Los Angeles. And then all of a sudden, our lives transformed literally overnight, and we are now living in Oregon where everything is way more peaceful, way more calmer, and there's no threats because Cancer is safety and security. And there's no more threats. We are now in safety and we now have security. But we were very traumatized and we were also conditioned to our previous environment of Los Angeles. So, meaning we were more rebellious, kind of reckless, and we also dabbled with drugs. We actually became addicted to crystal meth as children in Los Angeles. And so instead of our stepmother sort of understanding, oh my God, I just adopted these two children, and they're deeply wounded and they're coming from a very traumatic situation. I can help them, I can nurture them. Instead, she was very mean. She was very judgmental. She was very criticizing on us and didn't ever try to connect to understand us. Instead, it was pure judgment and rejection. And I never saw that particular layer until this transit. And so this is what I mean is we can kind of be brought into the past and be made aware of certain new nuances that we weren't fully aware of as we live through it. And then that can kind of bring new emotions to have to process. Because now I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, that actually kind of hurts, you know? It didn't hurt before because I wasn't aware of it before,
Yeah.
you know? So humanity is, you know, and I use my life as an example because it's a perfect example of what I'm trying to convey with the astrology. Cancer and Jupiter, I mean, Jupiter and Cancer, this is expanding the awarenesses of what we experienced in the home life, in the family life. The Chiron in Aries is triggering the wounds and how we've become individualized through our life experiences coming from the home, and ultimately trying to help us heal and break away from the cycles, break away from the nest, essentially. So when this Mercury stationed retrograde, Jupiter handed all the wisdom that he understood during the previous year to Mercury. So now Mercury can pass that information to the sun, to our conscious awareness, where now we can move into a new level of integration of what has transpired with these energies over the previous year. And with this new moon building up, we are in an opportunity to set a new intention, to set a new path forward. And, you know, with my example, I don't really have an intention that's relative to my family, but I have an intention that's relative to me, to my individuality and my integration. So part of this whole gathering and what I'm conveying and sharing is to also invite you guys to think about where in your life and in what ways can you set a new intention moving forward. And this Mercury retrograde is very important because he is going to be in Cancer for a very long time. Mercury has already been in Cancer for a little over a month. That already is a long time because Mercury is the fastest moving planet. Mercury can move through a planet in like 3 weeks. So for him to stay in one, I mean, Mercury can move through a sign in about 3 weeks. So for him to stay in a sign longer than that, it's a big deal. And because his retrograde started at the very late degrees of Cancer, it means this whole retrograde cycle is going to remain in Cancer. And then he's going to station direct and have to move forward through all those degrees he backtracked on. So, in total, this Mercury in Cancer transit is approximately 3 months long. Highly unusual, which means that there's something very important that our minds are having to learn about the Cancerian energy in our lives and in our charts. And Mercury is an analytical planet. Mercury is more of an air or earth type of planet, meaning logic, discernment, boundaries, formulas, reasoning. Mercury is the mind. It's left brain oriented. I need my numbers. I need my facts. I need my logic. I need my boundaries. I need my framework to perceive my reality. Cancer is a water sign, and water signs are not analytical. They're not left brain oriented, they're right brain oriented, which is sensing and feeling and imagining and receiving and creating. So for Mercury to be in Cancer for this amount of time, it's a big deal because the mind is having to learn how to quite literally swim in the ocean where there is no form, there is no boundaries, there is no formula. Because in astrology, the water element is very psychic and intuitive and spiritual. So with this Mercury retrograde, our minds are not only having to go introspective, but our mind is having to learn how to process our feelings. So we're having to pause to really tap into our emotional awareness. And that's a tricky place for the mind to navigate because the mind needs clear pictures. And Cancer is a sign that's ruled by the moon. And the moon is a planet that represents our internal, private world that can't be seen, but can only be felt and sensed through our feeling and our intuition. So right now, Mercury is kind of, our minds are kind of in the dark. It's like in the deep sea, like the Mariana Trenches, where we can't see anything, and the logic and the information is not really supporting us, and we have to really become aware of our intuition and how we feel about things. And this is very important right now, especially because of where Uranus and Mars have been. So Uranus is in Gemini. Uranus is in Gemini at 4 degrees, and now we are in this basket of Neptune 4 degrees Aries, Pluto 4 degrees Aquarius, and Uranus 4 degrees Gemini. So there's a lot of frequencies. There's a lot of energy that's being activated right now. And Gemini is the sign of the mind ruled by Mercury. And also Mars is in Gemini as well. So with these two planets in Gemini, there can be a lot of external distractions, a lot of chatter, a lot of information, a lot of external distractions and chatter and sort of information overload where it's hard to navigate moving forward. And so let's see, how does the heart fit into all this? Yeah, good question. Good question. Um, this, I mean, that this is part of the heart of feeling. Is it's dropping into the emotional awareness and becoming aware of what what the heart is saying, essentially, that heart intelligence and not the mental intelligence. So this is a very important process because we're being invited to tune out the noise of the external world and all of the mental chatter and the things happening on the world front and become sincerely aware of what our emotions are, how we really feel about something, which is very powerful. So let's say you've been having dealing with some frustrations at home, and there has been a struggle in understand and figuring out how to communicate your frustrations at home. Let's say it has to do with the dishes, right? Because that's an everyday thing and it's a common thing that every household, every family deals with. And we're talking about Cancer, which is home, family, and the kitchen. So let's say there's an issue around the dishes and keeping the kitchen clean and who's doing what. But there's all these emotions behind it. And with the Mercury retrograde, at first trying to communicate, perhaps all that's coming out is this one-sided righteousness and frustration and attack, which creates a response from the parties receiving that to react in the same way. So we're having to learn, okay, I need to become more centered and more, and I need to figure out how to arrive to a place within myself to sincerely communicate these, not only these feelings, but this situation. And so we're having to fine tune ourselves in the way we communicate to others, is what I'm saying. Does all that make sense?
Exactly what I'm grappling with.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you
And
have any yeah, please go ahead and share whatever it is you have based on all this.
oh, where do I begin? With Sandy being the controller in the house. Um, yeah, my husband and I have been grappling with this for quite some time, up and down, up and down. And after all this explanation, I'm like going, oh, I know why we did this, and then we didn't do that, and then we did this. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so the example would be you said dishes, not so much that. I was thinking cooking.
That's yep.
And he has his way of cooking, and I have my way of cooking. I'm the cleanup after as you go person, and he's the cleanup, maybe never. No, he does clean up after himself, but at the end, usually it's usually a chaotic kitchen because, well, his experiences were different than mine. Mine was in the work realm where you were at the end of the cycle and you did all the cleaning. I also was a cleaner for many years, and so I bring a lot of that into the house. He worked in hotels working with high level chefs and different things. So he grasps the creativity and the science part of the cooking, and he's a very good cook, actually. But when it comes to the kitchen itself, it's a disaster till he's done. So
Hmm.
we, I, that's just one of many of different kinds of examples we have around here between the two of us. And what I've been grappling with lately, because my old responses have been rearing their controlling heads, and afterwards I'm like going, but that's not how I really want to respond. So I said, Sandy, where and when are you going to stop and do a different response? Where and
Hmm.
when? This is what I've been grappling with. So somebody said recently it's easy to observe. It's easy to say observe and not absorb, not so
Hmm.
easy to do. And
Hmm.
that's exactly what I'm feeling about that and this both. Um, is to it almost feels like you're dispossessed of yourself. That's the word, dispossessed.
Hmm.
It's like it's not how I want to respond. What's possessing me? Literally, I say that sometimes. What's possessing me to say that?
Yes.
What's in me? Is there some thing that's pushing that response instead of me taking control of my own response?
Hmm.
Years of recovery, I wouldn't have looked at it that way. It's years of all I've learned in the last 15 years that has me looking at it at that level now. Whereas before, I would have just said, I just don't want to be like that. I want to be my loving self. Um, and then, there's always the forgive yourself for your trespasses against yourself and the other
Hmm.
people. And then you'll have an opportunity until you actually shift that cycle. And I don't know what it's going to take yet to shift that cycle.
Yeah.
And after being together for 13 years, that cycle really needs to be shifted. Seriously.
Hmm. Hmm.
Anyway, that's my little nutshell of many things.
That's beautiful. And thank you for sharing that. And but there were some things that you said that conveys exactly what I'm trying to get across in how the mind and the conscious awareness can be two separate things, where Mercury is the mind and all that chatter and all the information, while the sun is the conscious awareness. And something you said, it's something, it's easy to observe, but to not absorb and to do something like that. And that's exactly what I'm getting across with Mercury being the mind. Anyone can say, all the virtues, right? Anyone can say, well, patience is a virtue, well, mastery is this and that, or, all the things. I've read the four agreements, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But is it integrated in your awareness? Has it crossed that threshold where you have embodied that? And that's this Mercury retrograde crossing over the sun. It's helping us trying to find a way to get all of this overload that's in our mind into our awareness, and it's in Cancer, so it's gonna be moody. Cancer is the moody sign. Cancer is the most moodiest sign of the zodiac because they're ruled by the moon, and the moon's always changing. So there's a lot of emotions when it comes to the Cancerian energy and having to process that, and like you said, depossessed, and like becoming, you know, aggravated into the situation where now there's this explosive argument about things that really shouldn't matter, like that aren't really important, right? But here we are. And and it's not a big deal, but it's a matter of just figuring out how to send and receive the emotions between not just yourself, but the other person. And for both people, all people in the family, in the house, to come to this point of connection and being willing to receive and to speak and to share, to come to a point of harmony. And and so yeah, this is a great new moon for sort of bringing in some checks and balances around that area. And I'm not saying that, July 14th, 2026, like this new moon's going to bring total healing and fix all the problems. No, it's just the passageway. We're moving through a gateway of checking back in this theme, right? Hey, we're checking back in. We've come off balance in these areas. Let's bring it back into balance with putting in some new intentions here. Yeah, beautiful. So, what I want to move from here on out, especially because it's just the two of us here, and I planned the 2 hours if there was potentially a larger group for more talking and sharing. So coming to the closing end here, so I want to first see where Cancer is in your chart, and I do have your chart, Sandy. And for you, so you're a Capricorn rising with your sun sign in Capricorn. And this new moon, oh, and look at that. Today, like sun in Cancer is exactly opposite your sun in Capricorn. So it's your how do you what do they call it? It's your half birthday today.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty
Well,
birthday.
well, technically yesterday, but yes, it's your half birthday. We're 6 months away from your birthday exactly. Um, I love that. So for you, this whole Cancer saga with Mercury, Jupiter, and the new moon, this is all really happening in your sixth house, which the sixth house is the domain of daily routine, health, and wellness. So something that's becoming very illuminated, important for you with this Cancer new moon is coming into touch with your health, your wellness, and your daily habits that keep you in balance and in connection with your body and your health. And so with this new moon, it would be nice to set an intention of something new you can do for yourself around those things. It doesn't have to be like an everyday thing, but some new intention of some sort, um, like 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 rubbing your belly. That's a good thing. It's like a qigong practice. getting your two hands and activating the chi from your hands and doing circles around your stomach. You could do that and activate the chi of your digestive system, moving the energies. So that's like a new interesting thing you can do around a daily practice and for your health and wellness. And the sixth house is also service. And so for the Cancer energy, you could be coming into a new area of a new understanding of how you want to nurture the people in your life, how you want to be of service and show compassion in the people towards the people of your life. Um, so wonderful things here for you with that new moon. And the new moon will be squaring your Mars and opposing your sun sign. So with that square to your Mars and Aries at 17 degrees, there could be a little bit of some fire. There could be some flames, some fumes. And it's funny because your Mars is in your third house, which is communications. So there could be some, rapid fire shots that might just kind of just explode out of your mouth. But that's okay because what it does is it cracks the thing, it cracks the can open to then let the sizzle fade out, right? It's like, okay, I was holding that in. I said it. I'm sorry. That's not what I meant. Just pissed off. Can we keep moving from here? My bad.
Well, that sounds like me.
Yeah.
Painful
So
self-exposure.
so so for the meditation on this, the new moon is going to be again in the early AM hours of July 14th. So what I'll do is just kind of prop you and set you up for just a visual guidance, a visual meditation on tapping into this energy. So what I would like for you to do is as we kind of move through this is to begin kind of creating a space in your inner world, in your mind, a visualization, in your inner temple of being a crab, sort of becoming a crab and at the sea, because Cancer represents the crab, and just being at the ocean and feeling the sand as a crab with the moon up above and just sensing the ebb and flow of the water. And once you feel like you are locked into that visual space of being a crab with a hard shell, soft belly, and some pincers, and you can feel that magnetic force of the moon with the waves crashing and pulling and crashing and pulling. Once you feel locked into that visual space, I want you to then dive into the ocean as the crab and let the water take you deep to the seafloor. So imagining yourself coming down to the surface of the ocean on the floor. And as you're here, we're searching for something. We're searching for treasure and come to the visualization of actually finding an old sunken ship from 500 years ago. And in this sunken ship, as the crab, you find the treasure that has been lost, that has been forgotten in sea. And the treasure, I want you to allow yourself, allow your mind, your subconscious mind, and your higher self to be open to receive what it is you discover when you open that treasure chest. I don't want to tell you what it's going to be. I don't want to suggest what it might be, but I will bring back the awareness that Cancer is memories, nostalgia, the ocean, the past, and our ancestors. So perhaps there is some great, forgotten, lost memory or wisdom in regards to the Cancerian theme that wants to come into the surface of your awareness through this new moon. And this should be a profound, personal, private experience for you. And so that's my setup for moving through this new moon energy and the visualization and the meditation, setting the intention to receive something lost and forgotten.
Hmm. Will that be the meditation that you're sending then?
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
I like I like playing in meditation visual worlds.
Yes, me too. Me too. Me
See what
too.
happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Used to go.
Absolutely. All right, Sandy. Unless you have any further questions or things to share, I think we'll just wrap it up.
No,
All right. Well,
no. It's always something will come up afterwards.
you know how to reach me.
It's
Well, it was great. It was great seeing you. I'm very grateful that you showed up to support me. This is the first of many here, so I appreciate you, and I hope to see you come back again.
and we'll just envision lots more people.
There we go. Excellent. I love it. All right. Well, you have a good night and enjoy your weekend.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.